My name is Ben Binder. I am a registered professional engineer and land surveyor, and longtime Boulder resident who is very concerned about the decisions made by the Boulder City Council regarding South Boulder Creek flood protection. Recognizing climate change is increasing the magnitude of major storms, in 2018 the City Council approved plans for 500-year flood protection along South Boulder Creek. But the University of Colorado objected because the plan used more of the old Flatiron gravel pit, now known as CU South. The city quickly caved in to CU's demands and reduced the level of flood protection.
Good evening. My name is Susan Kirkpatrick and I reside at 210 West Magnolia Street in Fort Collins. I'm also a former mayor of Fort Collins and city council member there. Our early stormwater upgrades were designed to account for the 100-year flows. Unfortunately, in 1997, the community received between 10 and 14 inches of rain over a 30-hour period. The runoff exceeded the 100 and even the 500-year flows. 5 people died and 54 people were injured in the 1997 flood. Colorado State University's Morgan Library flooded and 425,000 volumes were damaged, along with $130 million worth of damage, and textbooks for the fall semester were wiped out. Our experience in Fort Collins is a cautionary tale for you. I urge you to be more cautious in your approach to flood control planning in the study area and recommend plans that are compatible with the 500-year flood events. The 100-year flood is not sufficient to protect the health, safety, and welfare of your community members.
To account for climate change, which is increasing both the frequency and magnitude of major storms, in 2018 the Boulder City Council wisely approved a 500-year flood protection plan. Plans for the 500-year project specifically stated conditions at the US 36 bridge could meet Colorado Department of Transportation requirements. But CU, placing more importance on maximizing the development of CU South than on protecting the lives of Boulder residents, sent a letter to the City Council demanding the city cease work on the 500-year plan. The city immediately caved in to CU's demand and reduced the level of flood protection under the pretext that the 500-year plan would not meet CDOT requirements. Boulder's Director of Utilities, Joe Tadiucci, stated the Colorado Department of Transportation would not approve plans for 500-year flood protection. Interestingly, this was never a concern until CU objected to the 500-year plan.
It really was and it was not a cost decision. Certainly the higher levels of flood protection cost more, but it was really feasibility of being able to match existing conditions and not make things worse downstream. When I say match existing conditions, flow conditions under the CDOT bridge.
City engineers have been asked multiple times, including a formal Colorado Open Records Act request, but have not provided any written evidence that CDOT would not approve a 500-year flood protection plan. It is standard practice for engineers to prepare written reports with engineering specifications, data, and calculations to support key decisions. This was not done. Furthermore, the City Council should have required hard evidence before revising its past support for 500-year flood protection. It did not. Past City Councils recognize they are not experts in all areas and encouraged input from the well-educated Boulder public, but unfortunately this is no longer the case. Please listen to the statements of City Council members Bob Yates and Rachel Friend on the value of public comments.
The one thing I would change about the meeting is the meeting ends with community comment, and that's not helpful at all because the usual suspects show up, and I would simply eliminate the public comment part of the meeting.
This would be a staff engineering effort, as I understand it. So I would think we might want to specify that it would not involve public input or public hearings. Partly because we've all seen what happens to staff when we invite public hearings and scrutiny in ways that are unnecessary. So I don't know that we need to torment staff with further public process when we're asking them to do a scientific inquiry. I think that they could do the presentations to council and to OSPT and RAB that don't involve public hearings. So I would ask that we be kind to staff and not require that.
Supporters of the annexation agreement and 100-year flood protection say that if there is a larger flood, the smaller 100-year plan will give people time to evacuate. But that's a myth. If there is a 500-year flood and residents are told to flee, traffic will be at a standstill similar to the hour-long delays that occurred last year when residents were fleeing the NCAR fire. In fact, traffic will be even worse if intensive development of CU South is approved. The last thing we want to do is give people a false sense of security. While the CU South annexation agreement will not protect Boulder residents from 500-year floods, the agreement does provide protection of CU buildings on CU South from 500-year floods. In fact, $4 million will be added to our utility bills to pay for importing and placing 150,000 cubic yards of earthfill. That's 10,000 15 cubic yard truckloads to raise a portion of the CU South gravel pit above the level of a 500-year flood. If Boulder is hit by a flood larger than a 100-year flood, CU and individuals responsible for rejecting plans for 500-year flood protection must take personal responsibility for the damage and deaths that will result. Please help put an end to this nonsense. Vote yes on ballot item 2F to repeal the CU South annexation agreement. Thank you for your time.